guys? My name is Brandon, and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live video of the concerts that we get. Like I mentioned in previous videos, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go see Issues and Falling in Reverse, but I heard they sold out the Fillmore in Philly, so that's congrats to them. But I would hopefully like to see them in the foreseeable future. Also, if you enjoy what I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. It really goes a long way, and it shows me what you guys like and don't like to see. So, um, other thing is a huge shout out to Nalbert, or I don't even. I'll put a text above my face. But shout outs to him. He hit me up on Twitter, asking if I would do a review of this, and ironically enough, I was actually working on this review, and just listening to the album. So. Um, Thanks to him. But if you have any other albums you'd like me to review, hit me up on Twitter, tweet at me, audioaddiction_, or you can shoot us a message on Facebook. It can be signed, unsigned, whatever. I'm pretty much down to do anything in this genre and other things as well. So if you have any music you'd like me to review, definitely let me know. But without further ado, guys, tonight we're going to be talking about Betray the Martyrs' new record, The Resilient. So, for those of you who haven't heard of this band, they've been with Sumerian for some time now. I don't know how long. Quite a few albums at this point. And I know they picked Aaron up a few albums ago. But this is, I think, his second album that he's on. I really don't follow this band too much. However, the reason why I decided to check this album out was that their first single, Great Disillusion, just got me pumped for this record. So I wanted to see how the rest of the record kind of just panned out and how it sounded, because I did originally like their first album with their older vocalist. So I wanted to see if, Aaron, I know Aaron's a great screamer, but I just wanted to see if he definitely improved, because the last record I heard wasn't too great. So, I wanted to make sure that, he was still sounding pretty good, because I knew he was just a good screamer, but I just wanted to kind of gauge and see. But I'm going to go through all the tracks and let you know which ones are my favorite, which ones I had thoughts on. I had thoughts on most, if not all of them. So, let's get into the first track, which is Lost for Words. This was actually the third single that Sumerian released. It's on their page, YouTube page. So if you want, you can go check that one out. And they had two other singles, like I mentioned, Great Disillusion, and then there was another one, but I'm not entirely sure which one it was, but we'll get into it. But I like the cool kind of like distant sort of intro. It's almost like borderline ambient. It's got this really nice like space to it. It's really cool. And then coupled with the fact that they use choir a lot throughout this, I think that kind of adds a cool layering effect just to the whole track in general. I also enjoy Aaron's screams a lot, just mids, lows, highs. I think he really has just brought it back and killed it. So I really enjoyed that. Again, like the nice piano, the synths, or not synths, it's probably more like strings or like orchestral sort of things. I think they just have mismatched that very well with their sound. And I would say this kind of goes, I think it rides the line between like deathcore and metalcore. I think it's kind of like a really nice mix between those two. Um, and obviously they show different talents from both genres respectively. But I really enjoyed that. The clean vocalist has some really nice grit to his voice. I enjoyed the parts in the chorus. I think he did a really good job. Also, I forgot that they had guitar solos, and some of these solos on this album are like monstrous. So I'm super stoked to get into those. Also, I feel like this is a great kind of opener track. I feel like it kind of gets you excited and motivated for what kind of the rest of the album will take form in the rest of the 12 tracks that are on this album. So moving on to track number 2, which is Take Me Back. Again, I like the cool piano kind of intro with a clean vocalist. I think that pairing together is very well put together. Obviously, they've been doing albums for some time now, so that obviously shows. I also enjoy again the leads in the intro. I think it's very tasteful. I think it adds a lot to the whole piano aesthetic that they're known for. Um, Other bands that come to mind that I can think of, but aren't particularly in the genre, In Fear and Faith definitely remind me a lot of that. But I thought it was going to be like a softer, sort of more laid back track, but then it kind of kicks in after that intro, sort of almost verse part. I feel like at that part, I was like, ooh, maybe it might get heavy. So it definitely got much heavier after that. I did like that they added a lot of like strings and orchestral things. I think it adds to kind of more of the lighter parts, but also the heavier parts as well. And I kind of think it adds to the overall like brutality of the track. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really odd that they had more of a poppy feel in the chorus. I think that's something that's a little bit off, and that kind of took me aback a little bit, just because it was just something a little bit odd. And then in this bridge portion that kind of even accentuates that even more, where they'll pass it off, the clean vocalist slash piano player and Aaron the screamer, they pass it off between the two. Like it would be screaming one part, and then like cleans the next part, and then screaming, and then cleans. So there is a nice cool kind of balance with that. But to me, I don't know if I really got the whole like poppy feel to the track, but nonetheless, it was a really good one. So I figured I'd mention that. But the third track is The Great Disillusion. Like I mentioned, it was the first track that they released, and obviously, with no exception, it is one of my favorite tracks off the record. Again, it got me really excited just for how the record's going to sound, and I think they held true to that sound. I like the cool kind of ambient intro. I think they did a lot of cool, like, kind of like opener parts to the tracks. I think they added a lot of like um layering and just a lot of like song structure and just song formatting in the whole album, and I think it shows the skill and just the I guess the seniority that they have in the scene, that they've been doing it for a long time, and they obviously know how to arrange tracks very well, so props to them. I also like the kind of dark sort of eerie tones throughout the track, with like maybe the odd sort of like pianos with weird kind of effects to it. I think that kind of adds to it, and like the overall just, I don't know, eeriness to it. I think that kind of adds this nice uniqueness that I would attribute to Betraying the Martyrs now. Um, I like that this track primarily features Aaron. I think, when I think of the band, I think a lot of Aaron, just in terms of his screams and just his diversity um, within the screaming parts. But I like that they just took a full track and just fully utilized him. And there are a few tracks in this album that he definitely gets utilized a lot on. So I'm really happy for that. So that's cool. And that was my thoughts on Great Disillusion. So we'll move on to track number 4, which is Dying to Live. This one is another one of my favorite tracks off the record. There's a lot of really great heavy tracks off this record, without a doubt. I like the back and forth between the two vocalists. Again, I think it goes to show that they've been doing it for a while, and they obviously know how they each other works, and how one time it could be Aaron screaming, and then another time it could be the piano player doing clean parts. So I think they really know how to find their place in the track ultimately, and obviously song structure has a lot to play into that. I also like the sort of deathcore sort of style breakdown with blast beats and the kind of more like guttural sort of screams. I think that's not as, I mean, it is definitely utilized within deathcore, but I haven't heard them do this in quite some time, at least in my opinion. So it's good to kind of see them go back to their roots in that regard. Like I said, it rides that line between metalcore, deathcore. I think it kind of just has that nice marriage between the two. And the solo in particular in this track is probably one of my favorites. There's another one that may beat this one out, but overall, the guitar work is super clean. And like I mentioned in a lot of my reviews, I mainly focus on a lot of the guitar parts because I am a guitar player myself. So those are the things that I like to gravitate towards. So that's something to point out as well. And then just the build up to the end with the payoff in this track, it is just two thumbs up. Like, man, this track is one of the heaviest, breakdowns that I had to hear in a while. Like upon first listen, I was just blown away. Like my brain just exploded, and they really kind of just hit the nail on the head on that one. So props to them. I really enjoyed this one. So we'll move into the next track, which is The Resilient, obviously the title track of the record. This one is another one of my favorites. They have three in a row that are really just, they are just knocking out fantastic tracks. I like the theatrical style intro. I think if they do the next record, they got to add more of this sort of stuff to it. I mean, obviously it takes a lot more time and a lot more production value, but I think in the end it really comes out to be an awesome track. I really enjoy that it blends in so well with the other instruments, where they are still doing those heavy guitar parts, they're still doing the really great drum parts, bass lines, and the screams and the clean singing. I said cleaning, I don't know why I mixed them together, but I think they really just mesh very well together, and obviously that goes to show that they've been doing it for a long time and they know how to place things, and their producer knows how to place things as well. So props to them, really good job on that. I think this track is absolutely menacing. It's ridiculous. Great title track. I think one of the best title tracks I've heard in quite some time, to be named after a record. I think they really did an awesome job of that. Probably my favorite chorus on the record, just overall with the group vocals, the lead vocals. I just feel like it feels very anthem-etic, like just makes you just super pumped up to do stuff. And then again, Aaron's just showing off his more of his diversity, just with the lows, the highs, the mids. I feel like he really kind of just has really encompassed everything on this record, and he just really went ham on this record without a doubt. Another great solo on this one as well. They just it's This one was just another really great track. So I'm thoroughly thrilled already, just based off of those three tracks in a row. I think they just have murdered it so far. And just speaking of which, Unregistered, the next track, is another one of my favorite tracks. This one is just keeping with that heavy, menacing feel, just unrelenting brutality. I think they just kind of murdered this track as well. It has to be damn near the heaviest track on this record, without a doubt. I would have to say it probably is the heaviest track on this record, or really close. That middle breakdown at the beginning. I'm sorry, my thing fell over. But that middle breakdown at the beginning of the track, or in the middle of the track, just mind blown. I just can't believe that one. That one's ridiculous. I also enjoy the juxtaposition between the dark tonalities of the track, as well as like kind of the happier sort of choruses. I think that's a nice play off of each other. But I also think the other breakdown will just crush you, as if the first breakdown already wasn't too crazy enough. They just murdered it. And then I think, without a doubt, I think Aaron did the best job on this track in particular. Just props to you, Aaron. I think you did a really awesome job. So we'll move on to track number 7, which is Won't Back Down. This was actually the second single, like I mentioned. I know they had a few singles out. I feel like they took more of a melodic approach to this track. There definitely was room to do heavy stuff. I still don't think it's not heavy. I think it's just a little bit more melodic, and just kind of to get your mind just not blown up, just to kind of get you back into the groove and things. So I like that. I appreciate that. I also like that there's a lot of group vocals throughout. I think a lot of bands underutilize that, so I think it's cool to see. I always love when group vocals come in. I think it kind of just adds another layer to the track, and just overall feeling of the track as well. But I probably have to say, if as far as tracks go, and just being through Great Disillusion, Dying to Live, The Resilient, Unregistered, I feel like, and just like my favorite tracks in general, I feel like this one kind of just fell short. It's not necessarily a bad track. I like that they took a different approach on this track in particular, but it just didn't hit me as much as the other tracks, the favorites that I mentioned. It just didn't grab me as much. And if you listen to it, I'm sure you can understand that feeling. So we'll move on to track number 8, which is Disconnected. Another great track, another one of my favorites as well. Again, they're getting back into that sort of menacing, brutal, like, just great stuff. That menacing laugh at the beginning and that scream is just beautiful. I love that stuff. I also feel like this track has much more groove than the other tracks. However, I do like the heavy aspects of it. But I think it just has this sort of like groovy sort of feeling to it, which I just love. I also think the breakdown is extremely creative, without a doubt. Probably the most creative breakdown on this entire record, without a doubt. And then just heavy in your face sort of track, just getting back to what we liked on this record. As well as I enjoyed the strings throughout the track. I feel like again adds a sort of element or an accent to the whole track in general. Again, I love the production value on this track. I think they just killed it, nailed it, without a doubt. And then another great chorus from these guys. So far they've been doing really amazing job. And so we'll move on to the next one. All right, so the next track is Behind the Glass. I like the layering as well on this one and the production value. I think again they did a really awesome job, and like I keep stressing a lot, I feel like they just whoever they did production with obviously is a French producer. But I feel like they just whoever they're doing it with, they have to stick with this guy because they obviously have a very good chemistry together and they have made a really solid album. So I feel like for the next record, they gotta stick with this guy because if they're gonna be consistent, then they should be consistent with this guy. But I really enjoyed the breakdown on this one. I think it's a really great one. And I also, again, like the usage of group vocals throughout the chorus. This one is another one that isn't quite my favorite, but I wouldn't say it's a bad track. It just didn't grab me like the rest of the tracks were. And so we'll move on to track number 10, which is Waste My Time. I like the guitar riff backing with the piano parts. I think that I've always liked that combination. Again, I bring up In Fear and Faith, but that band has just had that kind of pull to me. I just love when bands have that creative like thought process when making up tracks like that. So I definitely enjoy that. Another really great chorus from these guys. I think they really have found the formula for great choruses, especially for this band in particular. I think they did an awesome job, and I think in this track in particular, I think the clean vocalist gets a lot more spotlight time. Like I was mentioning, Arian gets a lot of tracks where he's at kind of the forefront. I like that the clean vocalist got his kind of his own track per se on this record. So we'll move into track number 11, which is Ghost. Another one of my favorite tracks off this record. I like again the eerie sort of chant at the intro. I think they have just nailed it with the intros in these sorts of tracks. I couldn't expect anything better from these guys. Again, I like the symphonic element. I know they've always had that, but I always feel like it's something necessary to point out as well. But I feel like the the other instruments outside of like the guitar and stuff, I feel like they don't get enough love. So it's cool to see that. It's cool to see a band doing that with just so much elements and so meshing it so well with their style. So props to them. I like the cool guitar parts playing behind the distorted guitar, like I mentioned earlier. That's just something that hits me. I love that sort of stuff. I think this chorus is probably the most straightforward chorus off the record. And what I mean by straightforward, I feel like it's a very basic sort of chorus. It's nothing like too special. It's nothing too different. I feel like they've really kept to the traditional structure of a chorus. And then I also enjoyed the layering. Again, I feel like it adds to the whole feel of not only this track but the whole album in general. I think they just kind of murdered that in that regard. And the last track is Wide Awake. Again, another one of my favorite tracks off the record. I think they couldn't have picked a better closer track. This track was spot on. I like at the intro they have this really cool kind of like I don't even know, this very ambient sort of distant sound where the guitars and the drums are kind of like all the way in the back. If you listen to really this track on some really nice headphones, you can definitely tell that sort of like that distance to the instrument. So I really enjoy that. I think that's something that's cool to point out. I also enjoyed this guitar riff a ton. Probably my favorite riff off the entire record. I like how very structured this track is. Not saying the other tracks off the album weren't. I just feel like this one feels the most together. The band feels the most cohesive on this track, without a doubt. I think if they make another album and sticking to Wide Awake, it'll be knocking it out of the park without a doubt. And I'm loving both vocalists in terms of, the screams, the cleans. I think they really just kind of mesh well together, like I've been mentioning many times. But I think they really have kind of just nailed it in that regard. And then this track has some almost genty vibes to it, which is kind of crazy. But I really enjoyed that as well. I think it's a nice change of pace. And I kind of add some creativity to this track and this band. So if they did this again, I would totally be fine with that. So let's get into the pros and the cons of the record. My pros are, man, they just put on a spot on record, without a doubt, their best record to date, and probably one of my favorite records of this year, without a doubt. It's just heavy in your face, just brutal, and I think you guys should go listen to it without a doubt after this review, of course. Um, I really don't have any cons, outside of maybe a few things, but that I mentioned in the actual tracks. But overall, I think they just really brought it back. They really brought it home. I think they did an amazing job, just production value wise. Who they picked for a producer, um, guitars, drums, bass, vocals. I think and layering and production. I feel like they just kind of found their perfect spot and they just really hammered it in. So if they do another record like this, you can expect to be seeing another review from them without a doubt. But congrats to Betraying the Martyrs. Go pick up their new record, The Resilient. I think it's a great record. And my overall rating for this is a 9.3 out of 10. I highly, highly, highly suggest you check out this record, especially if you're into metalcore, if you're into deathcore, or even just heavy stuff. I feel like this is kind of the great culmination of that, along with a lot of like symphonic sort of elements to it. So if you enjoy those like piano-y sort of things, like I mentioned in Fear and Faith, man, this album is just like another step up, and these guys did an amazing job. So definitely go check that out if you get the chance. If you enjoyed my review, make sure to hit that like button. Again, also make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything we do over at Audio Addiction. And let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this record. Did you pick it up? Did you even listen to it? And what are some of your favorite tracks off the record? Because I would certainly like to know. So thank you guys for checking out the review. My name is Brandon, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, of course. If you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.